محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we've been looking at Sura Al Hajj. I'll quickly go over it. And the reason why we picked Hajj was it's part of Kaaba Corner. These are months of Ashhar Al Hajj. And we looked at Surah Al-Fil, Quraysh, and now Surah Al Hajj. And inshallah today we will try and complete Surah Al Hajj. So we have 8 sections, but before that, just so that we can recap, we looked at 3 kinds of human beings. There was the inevitability of Qiyamah, but then 3 kinds of human beings: those who believe, those who outrightly rejected divine guidance, and then those who were on the cliff or on the edge, who only believed when things were good. We looked at the rites of Hajj, and now we will look at a section, or we will look right at the end of what success is as far as divinity is concerned, which is establishing Salah, or connecting with divinity, serving humanity, and striving hard. It's a remarkable surah, revealed both in the day and night, on the journey and at home, during war and during peace. Again, the benefits of recitation. I know we cannot visit the Kaaba at the moment, but if you recited it once every 3 days, then you would visit the Kaaba within the year. Now, I left off halfway or in between section 5. Let me just go over the sections very quickly. So in our heads, if we were going to look at Surah Al Hajj, the first section is literally the human being being disorientated on the Day of Judgment, like totally thrown off, not knowing where to start. So here it's a warning for us to be trying at least be accountable, know that we'll be accountable. And then 3 kinds of human beings, and I walked over that right in the beginning. The second section, we looked at this parable where there was this person who literally tried his best or her best, but then felt that nothing was happening. There were no tangible results, and so cut the rope. And cutting the rope means cutting divine guidance, himself or herself, and literally was at loss himself or herself. And Allah highlights that when he uses this example here. We then look at the contrast of punishment for those who were defiantly against divine guidance and those who believe. Section 4, we saw the announcement for Hajj, but maybe the thing that stands out here is there's a place of no discrimination. So the Hajj, or the place with Allah, there is no discrimination, and there were directives to feed the needy, the halakah and the tawaf. And I think it is here that we stopped halfway. When we looked at section 5, this is between ayah 39 and 60, and I stopped at ayah 58 because of this amal that I sent you. So I'm going to go to the ayah that we stopped at. So we stopped at just before ayah 58. Now I sent you this. These are some phenomenal ayat of the Quran. So we had 8 ayat of the Quran, and you'll find this in Mafatih al-Jinan. You'll find it in many books of dua about how these 8 ayat represent the 8 doors of Jannah, and I'll explain as I go along to the best of my ability. You had Ya Allah 15 times, and then you had the Asma al-Husna from these 8 ayah. For example, it started off with Ya Khair al-Razikin, Ya Alimu, Ya Halimu, Ya Afu, Ya Ghafoor, and we'll see them as they come across. Ya Samiu, Ya Basir, Ya Aliyu, Ya Kabir, Ya Latifu, Ya Khabir, Ya Ghaniyu, Ya Hamid, and Ya Ra'ufu, Ya Rahim. And then there was the recitation of the ayat and that beautiful dua, Iftah li baba rahmatik, open for me the doors of rahmah, waj'alli min amri farajan wa makhrajan bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin, and make it easy for me, open the doors for me quite easily with your rahmah. It's a phenomenal, these 8 ayats are known as Ismi A'azam, and they are really phenomenal. So if we can focus on these, so let's go over them, and I'll try and explain what little I know of them. So let's start in the beginning. وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا, those who do hijrah. Now remember, those who did hijrah not only migrated with the Prophet. Even when you and I migrate or move somewhere, you're leaving behind family, you're leaving behind businesses, you're leaving behind absolutely everything. There's a sacrifice that made. And Allah says, ثُمَّ قُتِلُوا, and then they were killed, أَوْ مَاتُوا, or they died in that striving. Now that was also alluding historically to the fact that after hijrah there would be some battles. But here is Allah is saying, if on the way you were killed or you died, لَيَرْزُقَنَّهُمُ اللَّهُ رِزْقًا حَسَنًا. He will compensate you for your sacrifice. He knows what you've done. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَهُوَ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. And Allah is the best of those who give sustenance. And sustenance is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So I would write down near Ayah 58 sustenance. Remember I said in these amals, or in the amal that I sent for Ayah 58 to 65, this is Isma A'adam. And all of us, in essence, strive in life for sustenance. And he says, Inna Allah lahu khairu raziqin. It is only he who is the best of giver of sustenance. Now, what is the other thing? He says, لَيُدْخِلَنَّهُمْ. He will cause them. Who are these people? Who have sacrificed everything they have to be able to get other people to reach their full potential by following divine guidance. He says, لَيُدْخِلَنَّهُمْ مُدْخَلًا يَرْضَوْنَهُ. Even looking at the entrance, they will be so pleased with it. So you can imagine, just looking at the entrance, forget about going into their homes in Jannah, forget about even further. Just that entrance bit is just something that overawe them. I don't know how to put this. All I can say that the entrance will be so great. The feeling of wanting to enter will be so great that they will forget everything else. In Yasin, we see Habib al-Najjar. Qila dkhulil Jannah, he's called. Enter Jannah. And he's not even entered Jannah. He's just been told to enter Jannah. He's seen a gate, if I can metaphorically put it. He says, قَالَ يَا لَيْتَ قَوْمِي يَعْلَمُونَ بِمَا غَفَرَ لِي. I wish my people knew how I gained forgiveness and how I became one of the honored ones. So Allah is saying, the second thing is, and then says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَعَلِيمٌ حَلِيمٌ. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. Allah knows, and He is Halim. Halim, in my language, like khichdi. Khichdi is soft rice. He is so soft. He knows exactly how you're feeling. He knows what you're going through. So 58, I'd write sustenance. 59 knows what you're going through. ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ أَعْقَبَ بِمِثْلِ مَا أُوكِبَ. Now here he's saying, remember ذَلِكَ comes in the surah a lot. ذَلِكَ, did you get that? Did you get what you're going to see? Then he says, وَمَنْ أَعْقَبَ بِمِثْلِ مَا أُوكِبَ. And the one who retaliated, or in other words, remember this was the permission of fighting given, who when afflicted retaliated and was defensive, was able to defend himself. But Allah says that's not going to be enough, because ثُمَّ بُغِيَ عَلَيْهِ. As far as historically goes, the Quraysh first thought they were justified in their attack towards the Muslims because they felt they were a rebellious people who were actually changing the way they lived. So Allah says, when you defended yourself, remember, ثُمَّ بُغِيَ عَلَيْهِ, they will wrong you again. But لَيَنْصُرَنَّهُ اللَّهُ. Allah will help you. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَعَفُوٌ غَفُورٌ. Allah is forgiving, and Afu is He will rub everything out of you, of that which is wrong, and Ghafur, He is forgiving. So Ayah 60, I would write forgiving. I would put extremely forgiving. And then according to the sections, this is now reflection on creation, but with that amal we will continue. So Ayah 61, why? ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ يُولِجُ اللَّيْلَ فِي النَّهَارِ وَيُولِجُ النَّهَارَ فِي اللَّيْلِ. Because Allah causes the night to enter the day and the day to enter the night. Now what has that got to do with any of this? First of all, it is a reflection of creation, but it's trying to tell you and me that seasons change, day and night change. My mother always used to tell me that Allah never gives you a night after a night. There is always a dawn after a night, and that's basically what He's saying. He's saying, don't worry, may be difficult now, but it's going to be all right, because Inna Allah Samiyun Basir. Whatever you're going through, Allah is hearing and knowing. So Ayah 61, I put hearing and knowing, and seasons change. And He says, Dhalika, did you hear that too? Bi-anna Allah huwal haq. Allah is the only truth in everything. وَأَنَّ مَا يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ هُوَ الْبَاطِلُ. Whatever they call upon besides Him is falsehood, is an illusion. Everything else is an illusion except divinity. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْكَبِيرُ. And Allah is the Most High and the Greatest. So here I write, everything is an illusion except divinity. So divinity is reality, everything else is an illusion. Ayah 63. Alam tara anna Allah anzala minas samai man. He said, do you not see that Allah sends water down from the heavens? فَتُصْبِحُ الْأَرْضُ مُخْضَرًّا. And then you find that the khidr is, or khadra, it's green. Suddenly you find that the earth stirs and becomes green. Inna Allah latifun khabir. Allah is subtle and is aware. Now why this here as well? He's trying to say that when you are planted into the ground, when you have died, He will raise you again. So in other words, immortality. It is in a subtle way. And your deeds are always immortal. So that is Ayah 63. Everybody craves to live forever. And we know we're going to die. But everything we do, we want people to remember us. So He's saying, don't worry. Whatever you plant in the earth, I will make it flourish. لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. For Him is whatever is in the heavens and the earth. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَهُوَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ. And Allah is independent. You could call Him rich, self-sufficient, and He is praised. Everybody wants to be independent. Everybody wants to be praised. And He says, this, come to me and I will sort that out for you. And finally, Ayah 65. Alam tara anna Allaha sakhara lakum ma fil ard. Do you not see that Allah has made whatever is in the earth? He's made it. He's subdued it for you. Wal fulka tajri fil bahri. Look at the ships in the sea. Such heavy things floating in the sea. Bi amrihi. You can use all your scientific facts. But basically, it's seeing this heavy thing float in the sea. Wa yumsiku as-samaa. And look at the earth. And taka ala al-ard. He holds it up so it doesn't fall on the earth. Illa bi-idhni. Except with His permission, it is held up. Inna Allaha bin nasi. And He says, if you recognize all these miracles, then you will know that Allah for all human beings is Ra'uf and Rahim. The only way I can explain Ra'uf is somebody who is empathetic or empathic to what is happening to you. Somebody who absolutely understands you. Most people don't understand what's happening to you. In fact, 99.99% will not understand what's going on inside you. You may try and explain it, you may try and verbalize it, you may try and say it. They may use their experiences to be able to understand you, but they won't. But Ra'uf is somebody who is extremely empathetic. He really understands what you're going through. And Rahim is extremely compassionate. So He's extremely compassionate and He knows what you're going through. So these are the ayat that we looked at as part of that Amal. But now we're still on section 60. On section 6, and this is the last ayah of reflection on creation. And He says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَحْيَاكُمْ ثُمَّ يُمِيتُكُمْ. It is He who gave you, brought you to life, then He causes you to die. ثُمَّ يُحْيِيكُمْ. Then He will bring you to life again. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَكَفُورٌ. But the human being is ungrateful. Death in itself is a mercy. That's why you call somebody marhum, somebody on whom Allah's mercy has prevailed. He says, but even that you're ungrateful to me. So these are all bits of reflection, all things that we need to reflect upon. So ayah 61 to 66, total reflection on the awesomeness of Allah. And literally saying there's nobody else but me. That's what He's saying. Now we come to section 7, which is ayah 67 to 76. Now here it highlights the weakness of those who are called upon other than Allah. So let's see what that says. It says, لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ جَعَلْنَا مَنْ سَكَنْهُمْ نَاسِكُهُ. Now nasaka is sacrifice. So to every nation, we gave them different forms of sacrifice, of what they would have to sacrifice to divinity, different devotions which they observed. There were different ways they did things. فَلَا يُنَزِعُنَّكَ فِي الْأَمْرِ. So He says, don't argue with each other. Naza'a is to pull. Don't pull each other apart about your disputes. My sacrifice is better than yours. My way of doing things is better than yours. Don't do that, it says. Just wad'u ila rabbika. Just do dua to your Rabb. We don't get higher by stepping on somebody else. I think I continually say this. One judge, one position taken. When it's empty, we will all apply. But at the moment that position is taken by Allah, to make myself feel better than anybody else, that's not my job. My job is to do what is being told is right for me and to strive to do that. That's why he says, وَدْعُ إِلَى رَبِّكَ, you do dua to Rabb, call your Rabb. إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى هُدًى مُسْتَقِيمٍ, indeed you are on the right way. You have been guided on the right way. Why do you want to argue with everybody else? It's not going to get you anywhere. You're not going to justify it. Why they do things their way, why do your things your way? You can explain your way, but you don't argue. It's very clear here. فَلَا يُنَازِعُنَّكَ. Naza'a, like I tell you, وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا. We read in Surah Al-Nazi'at. Don't pull each other apart. وَإِن جَادَلُوكَ, and if they debate with you and they argue with you, فَقُلْ, say to them, Allahu a'lamu bima ta'lamun. Allah knows what you do. In other words, he's saying, don't argue. You're not going to get anywhere. You can explain your point of view, but that's about it. But don't argue. Stop debating. Everybody has their own way. Allahu yahkumu baynakum yawm al-qiyamah. Exactly what I said. Allah will judge between you on the day of Qiyamah. فيما كنتم فيه تختلفون, in what you differ. It's not your job to judge. It's not up to me and you to be judged. We tend to do that a lot. So he's saying that's not yours, that's my job. And he says, أَلَمْ تَعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Do you not know that Allah knows what is in the heavens and the earth? إِنَّ ذَلِكَ فِي كِتَابٍ, and it's in a book. إِنَّ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرٌ. It is so easy for Allah. So he's alluding to the fact that you study the book and you'll see where it'll get you. And then he says, وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ, they submit to other than Allah, مَا لَمْ يُنَزِّلْ بِهِ سُلْطَانٍ, and there's no authority to the ones they submit to. وَمَا لَيْسَ لَهُمْ بِهِ إِلْمٍ, and they don't have any knowledge either. It's conjecture. وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِن نَصِيرٍ, and as a result of that they do injustice, and for the one who does injustice there is no helper. وَإِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُنَا. Now this is like a benchmark. How do I recognize people I shouldn't argue with, people who just call other than Allah? He says, وَإِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُنَا, when our signs are recited to them, when they're told about them, when the Quran is recited to them, bayinat, clear signs are recited to them. تَعْرِفُ فِي وُجُوهِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا الْمُنْكَرِ, you will see. تَعْرِفُ means you will find, arafa, you will recognize on the faces of those who cover up the truth, munkar, evil. In other words, you will recognize on their faces this recognition of, they hate it. They hate the recitation of Quran. يَكَادُونَ يَسْتُونَ بِالَّذِينَ يَتْلُونَ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِنَا. It is as though they want to pounce upon those who are reading the Quran. They want to stop them. They want to close their book and say, don't do it. I don't want to hear this. قُلْ, tell them. أَفَأُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ مِنْ ذَلِكُمْ. Shall I tell you what is worse than these evil faces you make when the truth is recited? An-nar, the fire, agitation. وَعَدَهَا اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, it is promised to those who cover up the truth. وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ, it's an evil resort to go to. So a benchmark is, do I like the recitation of Quran? In the sense, do I like listening to the words of Allah, or does it make me hate it? And he says worse than that is the agitation of the fire. And now, Ya Ayyuhan Nas. Now we'll see as we go along, we'll find Ya Ayyuhan Nas, and then we'll find Ya Ayyuhal Ladhina Amanu. So now here we're looking at Ya Ayyuhan Nas. So he's saying, oh people, Dhuriba mathalun. A mathal is in a parable or an example. Dhuriba, and you will find strike an example. But strike an example doesn't mean hit you with an example. Dharaba is, the example is so astonishing, so striking. So he doesn't say Allah has set you an example. He says, look at this example. Fastami'u lahu, and listen to it. Not just hear, listen. Listen to what? He said, Innal ladhina tad'una min dunillah, those whom you call other than Allah, لَن يَخْلُقُوا ذُبَابًا, they cannot even create a fly. So he's saying all these idols that you call upon, all those that you see as God, the tyrants that like Fir'aun who call themselves as God, they cannot even create a fly. وَلَوْ اجْتَمَعُوا لَهُ, even if all of them got together and planned and thought we can do it, they will not be able to do it. Then he says, وَإِن يَسْلُبْهُمُ الزُّبَابُ, if a fly, salaba, is to take something away while you're watching. So how can I put this? So in front of my eyes, if somebody takes, not sneakily, straight in front of my eyes, he says, even if a fly takes something away in front of their eyes, shay'an, anything, la yastanqidhuhu minhu, they are not able to take it back. Now, two scenarios here. One scenario is where if I were to place fruits and food and milk or whatever I do in front of an idol, if a fly came and drank of that milk or of that food, the idol cannot stop that fly from taking that food. That's number one. The second scenario is if a fly was to snatch something away from me, then their saliva, and you can Google it, their saliva creates this enzyme which breaks down the food, and even if you had the ability to dissect a fly and try to get back what is taken away from you, it is not the same as what he took. So Allah is saying, La yastanqidhuna, they can't even take it back. Dha'ufa talib, weak is the one who asks, or how can I put this? I'll try and give you a better word for it. Weak is the seeker, wal matlub, and weak is the one who is sought, who is wanted. So weak is the one who wants and the one who is wanted. And this is an amazing scenario. I'm going to try and show you how I've put it down in my Quran. So if you can see, you could draw a fly, you could write Zubaba, you can put down the wanted, and want, by the way, this is where I've put that amal that you saw before. I've highlighted those 8 ayat up there, and then written the notes at the end here about evil on their faces. So that's my Zubaba, by the way. And you could put Salb there, snatch away whilst watching. So Allah continues about people, general human beings. He says, Ma qadarullaha haqqa qadrihi. They do not appreciate Allah as He should be appreciated. And then he says, Inna Allah, how they've not understood is Allah is qawi, He is strong, and He is the ultimate authority. Aziz, mighty, the ultimate authority. That's what general human beings have not appreciated. He is the authority, and He is strong. And then he says, Allahu yastafi. Allah chooses. Now there are 2 words we will find here, and I'll come to it in the end. If I forget, you will remind me. Istifa and ijtiba. Both are choose. Istifa is to choose something or someone without any explanation. He doesn't have to explain to me why He chose Jibreel as the angels to send the message. Why he has His own wisdom. He doesn't need to explain to me. I need to accept it because He is Allah. So Allahu yastafi min al malaikati rusulan. He chose from His messengers, from His angels messengers. Wa minan nas, and from people. So when He chose Ibrahim or Ismail or Muhammad or Noah, or he chose. This is what He did. Inna Allah samiyun basir. Allah is hearing and seeing. And always the last 2, the names of Allah gives you an indication of the rest of the ayah. So He says, I hear and I see. يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ. He knows what is before them, وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ. He knows what is behind them. وَإِلَى اللَّهِ تُرْجَعُ الْأُمُورِ. And everything comes back to Him. Now this is what general human beings have not accepted. That He is strong and that He is the ultimate authority. Not understood that He is hearing and seeing. He's the eyes and ears, and He can see everything. It's like having that camera on you all the time. And everything comes back to Him. And He knows my past, future, present, everything. Absolutely everything. Now, the last section, or the last part. Now this, He's talking about those who have understood this, who have understood that Allah is strong, that Allah is the ultimate authority, that He is hearing and He is seeing, all those things. And they are called Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. I'll go back to it again. What you and I are supposed to know. You and I are supposed to know that He is strong, He's the ultimate authority, He hears and He sees, and everything will go back to Him and He knows everything. When we know that, then we're known as Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe. What am I supposed to do? Arqa'u wasjudu. Do ruku and do sajda. Now, there are many explanations given for ruku and sujood. Ruku is beginning of humility, sujood is total humility. But you will find that, let me take an example of sports people. If you see them, if you've watched the Olympics or you've watched any races, especially people who run, you will find when they run and when they come to the end of their run, they go into ruku. They actually hold their knees. Exhausted, they hold their knees. Okay? Quran says, "Sari'u ila maghfiratin min rabbika." Run to the forgiveness of Allah. So maybe that ruku is like, Ya Allah, there's nobody else. I'm exhausted. It's only you. And you go into ruku. And then when you're really exhausted, you collapse. Wasjudu. You collapse on your face, right? So he's saying, do ruku and do sujood. And understand then, wa'abudu rabbakum, that you are enslaved to your Rabb. There's nobody else. There's a saying which says, when you're enslaved to your Rabb, then you're independent of everybody else. The moment you're enslaved to somebody else, my goodness, it just goes on and on and on. Waf'alul khair, and you will find when you do that, you will be inspired to do good. You will do good. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ, so that you may be successful. I told you this was about success at the end. To be successful, do ruku, do sujood, enslave yourselves to Him, and do good. And that's falah is when the farmer reaps his harvest, and you will reap your harvest. What else should you do? وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ, and strive in His way what is due to Him. And normally he says وَجَاهِدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Here he takes out the sabil. He says وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ, strive in getting closer to Him. And then he says ijtabakum. Now here we go, ijtabakum. I said there was istifa and ijtiba. Ijtiba is choosing because you deserve to be chosen. In other words, you had the qualification to be chosen. When you and I are Muslims, it's not because we were born in Muslim families. It's not just by some odd mistake, thought, all right, they're going to be Muslims. No. Ijtabakum. He says, I chose you because I recognized good in you. I recognized servitude in you. وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ, and in this religion of yours, there is nothing that is difficult. Haraj is a tightness of the chest. It should not cause you, it should give you more freedom. It should open you up rather than tighten you up. And then he says, مِلَّةَ أَبِيكُمْ Ibrahim. This is the millah. Millah is a community based on love. This is the community of your father Ibrahim. هُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. He named you Muslims before. Some say Ibrahim called you Muslims, but it's more like divinity says He has called you those who have submitted to Him, who are at peace with Him. Min qablu wa fi hadha, and in this, liyakuna rasula shahidan, and that the messenger will be a witness over you. وَتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ, and you will be witness over people. In other words, you will be the benchmark. They will look at you and they will say, is that what a Muslim is supposed to be? Then we want to be Muslim. That's basically what it's supposed to be. So you're supposed to be the best of humankind. And how do you become the best? فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ, establish salah. وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, and make sure you do as much good as possible. When he says pay the poor, zakah is giving out to the best of your ability. And then وَأَتَصِمُوا بِاللَّهِ, and hold on to Allah. Hold on to what? Hold on to the rope of Allah. وَأَتَصِمُوا بِاللَّهِ, hold on to divine guidance. هُوَ مَوْلَاكُمْ, He is the one who will protect you. فَنِعْمَ الْمَوْلَى, he is the best of protectors, the best of guardians. وَنِعْمَ النَّصِيرُ, and he's the most excellent of helpers. Absolutely phenomenal surah. I don't think there's better than that. And if you go back here, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ, you'll find the next surah is because of this ayah, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. It starts off with that. So with this we literally come to the end of Sura Al Hajj. 8 sections. I can go over them very quickly for you, just so that they stand up in your mind and you don't forget. First section, finality of the Day of Judgment, disorientation, 3 kinds of human beings. Second section, don't give up. However hard it might look, you may not see the results, but don't give up. Third section, it gives you complete contrast of those who defiantly disagree and those who believe. Fourth section, the rites of Hajj, and literally there's an exhortation to focus on divinity. Fifth section, there's the promise of help when you defend yourselves. Then there's this reflection on creation, and in the 7th section, the weakness of those who call upon other than Allah, and finally the last section, which says literally, pray Salah, establish Salah in your life, serve humanity, and strive against all odds to reach your full potential, so that when you die you can say, thank you for life, I did my best to leave the world a better place than that in which I found it in.